I've been doing this for 30 years, and when I look back I realize I haven't learned anything except one thing: to trust that space, this it, the source, God, if you will. So what is the quantum shift? Now, when we think about now, we always think about events and experiences that are happening now. Let's go deeper than that to understand what we mean by the quantum shift. What is deeper than the events and experiences that is happening now? Please keep this in mind, because this is where the whole understanding starts to come in. What is deeper than the events and experiences that are happening in this moment is the space in which it contains them. In other words, see a great space, and it's all being contained by what is happening. So rather, what is happening within this space. You are this space that contains every experience. You see? So you are actually that space. Now, if you were to see that space prior to any experience, then there is the transformation. Let's see how that happens. Okay, we can take it point by point. Now, is this clear about what I said? Events and experiences happen now. There can be no other time than now. Now is the only time. Tomorrow never comes. We know that, right? Because when it does come, it's still now. And yesterday is gone. Now is the only thing that there is. Now. When we think of now, we think of what is happening now. It is deeper than that. It is the space in which they happen. Are we clear on that? Okay, no questions. All right. Now, when we begin to live from that space in which everything happens, because what we mean by space, you are now seated here listening. And as you listen, totally listen, fully absorbed, you forget yourself. Because that's what attention does. Total, absolute attention is love. Now, as you pay total attention and you forget yourself, you will find that you're aware of everybody in the room, you're aware of the energy in the room even, but you forget yourself. You're just a looking, you're just a seeing. Okay, this seeing, this looking is a space. It's a presence. Okay? So what is real is this presence, and this presence contains everything within it. If you put this presence first, even for a second, that's the alteration, that is the great shift that starts to happen inside you, to change you completely, transform you in your whole viewpoint of what you thought was real, the world, everything begins to shift. Now, the first thing is that when you begin to put this space and first in everything that you experience, the first thing that starts to come is that time is not what you thought it was. You begin to understand time in a totally different way. For example, we always go by the clock, by the watch, time. But you'll find that when you put space first, and you're just here, you begin to see that when you love something completely, that you begin to disappear, time changes. Now, time doesn't change, but it's relative to what you're experiencing. For example, if you're totally enjoying yourself, if there's total love in the moment, 2 hours can go by and it says, oh my gosh, how time flies. You'll also begin to see that when you're caught in yourself, something becomes personal. You get bored or depressed or anything like that, time drags. It becomes, longer and longer and longer. So you'll find that time is relative to how you are perceiving this now. So now you begin to, it expands. It has no limit. One time somebody said to me, you talk about now as everything. He says, but it's more than that, isn't it? So there's no limit to now. Time is, now is unlimited. You see? In the now, there are the heavens, the stars, other universes, Everything is contained within the now, because now is not confined to just the events and experiences that are happening, but the space in which everything is contained. Okay? Now, when we become aware of time is relative, it begins to lose its essential concreteness. And we move to a second part. The second part is, am I really doing things? Am I really deciding? Am I really making up my mind about this or that? Am I really a doer? And then, because you have opened yourself up, you begin to see that no, you're not really a doer. What decides everything are two things. One is your conditioning. Your parental training, your religious training, your tradition, and made up of all your beliefs, your personality type, your instincts, your tendencies, everything determine your choice. So when we choose a president over a country, we have to be very careful whom we vote for. Because you're not voting for just a man who's going to decide for the country. You're going to vote for a conditioned human being who's going to decide from what he thinks and believes to be so. And it will run the whole country. So, this applies to anything. If you enter a business and you know who the owner is, lo and behold, you'll find that the energy of the owner is the energy embedded in the whole business area. Did you ever feel that? You enter a store, and then you get to know the owner of that store. And you'll find that the energy of that owner is everywhere in that store. Even the employees act according to the owner. And this is very, very interesting. Very few people are aware of. Okay? Because the deciding factor, the conditioned response of any given environment dictates everything from that conditioning. So are we really deciding, or is it coming from a preconditioned state? In other words, consciousness. Okay? But we begin to break free from this conditioning when love begins to decide for us. But it's all questions. But the thing is that love does not decide. Love acts. Okay? I said this many times, but it comes first thing in the mind. If a mother can't swim and the child is drowning, she doesn't think, oh, I better not jump in to save my child because I can't swim. She jumps in without thinking. Because love acts, it does not decide. You see? So we will find that there is really no doer. You're acting all the time from an egoic point of view, which is called conditioning, the past. You can't help that. When you become aware of that and you move into the space that you are, and you allow the space to be, even the space happens to be fear, it happens to be anger or reaction, you see that it's simply swimming in that space, but you are the space, not it. It's just happening to you, but you're not it. Are you understanding me? Right. So therefore, when you begin to see that, you enter what is called love. Now, what is love? Love is a self-forgetfulness. That's what love is. Love is when you forget yourself in the love that is being experienced. And then we enter the ultimate one that brings the shift itself. That brings the total trust. You realize there is no experiencer. And this can happen according, of course, to how willing you are to trust that your space is the very intelligence of life itself. That which is seeing now, you see, that now which is listening is the totality, is the oneness. Appearing or acting through you, through your eyes. So, and this is this, there is no experiencer, there is just experience.